Senior Justice Department official Bruce Orr is headed for a heated hearing on Capitol Hill after President Trump slams his, quote, disgraceful connection to the Steele dossier.
I think that Bruce Orr is a disgrace with his wife, Nellie. For him to be in the Justice Department and to be doing what he did, that is a disgrace.
So what questions does Orr need to answer today? Here now to weigh in as commentary writer at the Washington Times, Philip Wegman. Thank you for joining us this morning. Philip, I know you say there are two big questions. What are they, and do you anticipate getting answers?
Well, first of all, there's an entire universe of things that you could ask this man, because in a lot of ways, he's the Forrest Gump of the Russia investigation. Think about it. You know, he was at the Department of Justice during this, and he was involved somewhat in the Russia investigation. His wife, Nellie Orr, was at Fusion GPS, and he didn't properly disclose that he was financially benefiting from an active federal matter that, he was involved with. And then finally, he just so happens to be friends with Christopher Steele. So Republicans are going to be chomping at the bit, and there are going to be so many things that they have questions for, and it's going to be up to him to decide whether or not he wants to play ball or plead the fifth.
Okay, let's read a statement here from Mark Meadows, a Republican who's been really looking into this quite a bit and making a lot of statements about it. Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie, worked for the firm hired by the Clinton campaign to write the dossier. Bruce Orr gave the dossier to the FBI. The FBI then used the same dossier to spy on the Trump campaign. When he comes to Congress tomorrow, Bruce Orr has some explaining to do. Now, Orr giving that dossier while he's working at the DOJ, giving that dossier to the FBI, did that move, that seems to be what everybody's focusing on, did that break some sort of a protocol? I mean, is there a punishment for that? What do you expect?
So already Orr has been demoted because Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, found out about some of the activities that he was engaged with without permission. I think what's going to be really interesting here that Orr is going to have to explain is, first, why was he even meeting with Christopher Steele after the FBI decided to end their relationship with him? And then the bigger question here that I think is going to lead to, more explanations that, former Obama officials are going to have to give is, Bruce Orr is going to be pressed on who at the FBI or who at the DOJ or who at the White House knew of his meetings with Christopher Steele and who approved them, or was he simply acting on his own? The goal here is going to be to pull the thread, not necessarily to just stop with Bruce Orr.
Well, right, but realistically, how many answers to these questions do you think we're going to get?
And that's the the number one question here. Two things could happen. I'm cynical. I think that Bruce Orr is probably going to say one of two things. Either he's going to plead the fifth on his own, or he's going to do something really similar to what we saw Peter Strzok do in committee, which is kind of turn to the side, talk to his lawyer, and say, well, on the advice of my Department of Justice lawyer, I've decided not to answer that question.
Right. Real quick, I just want to get in that. You read the New York Times today, and they have what almost appears to be a sob story about Bruce Orr here, saying that his fellow colleagues always said he was a straight shooter, that this is all that he really didn't do anything wrong, and it's a piece in the New York Times. So I mean, it bears some reference to at least read and to think about. How do you answer that, I guess?
So what we've seen from the beginning of this entire Russia investigation is we've seen collusion conspiracy theories on the left, and we've seen deep state conspiracy theories on the right. The only thing that is going to restore, I think, confidence in our institutions is more transparency. And I know that this is a closed-door hearing today with Bruce Orr, but it's a step in the right direction. My hope is that this would move the administration, the Trump administration, to declassify a lot of the documents that Congress has already subpoenaed from the DOJ.
Which they can do at any time.
Time will tell. Philip Wegman, thank you for joining us.
All right, today on Capitol Hill, Bruce Orr heading to the hot seat behind closed doors. The DOJ official set to face the House Oversight Committee to testify about his ties to the anti-Trump dossier, which are indisputable. So what can we expect? Let's ask House Oversight Committee member Congressman Ron DeSantis, who in a matter of moments will tell us how nervous he is and how optimistic he may be about his nomination to represent the Republican Party in the gubernatorial race in Florida. First things first, Congressman, as you are right now, what are you anxious? I know you're not going to be there today because you have behind closed doors. What are you anxious to hear from Bruce Orr?
Well, I want to know his precise role. I mean, we know just from the documents that we have that he was functioning almost as an intermediary between the Clinton campaign and Fusion GPS and the Obama Justice Department. He was one of the highest ranking officials in Obama's Justice Department, reporting directly to the anti-Trump Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates. So it's really an unprecedented use of official prosecutorial resources to have him that deeply involved in generating this opposition research. We need to know who else at the FBI knew what he was doing. We need to know when he started dealing with people like Glenn Simpson at Fusion GPS, what his interactions were with Christopher Steele, and the financial interests that he had in stake, because his wife, Nellie Orr, worked for Fusion GPS, and you're not allowed to be a federal official and participate in matters that you have a financial interest. So I think there's a whole host of questions, but he really is a critical kind of wheel in this whole collusion cog that we've been able to expose over the last few months.
But Ron, he has no business even being in this. He usually does narcotics cases, yet we have 60 known contacts with Christopher Steele, a guy working as a private contractor for his wife's company. Here's an example of some of the texts that we'd like to have him explain. Here's one, Christopher Steele to Bruce Orr. Hi, just wondering if you had any news. Obviously, we're a bit apprehensive given the scheduled appearance at Congress on Monday, hoping that important firewalls will hold. What does that mean? That's the voice in my head. Bruce Orr, sorry, no new news. I believe my earlier information is accurate. I will let you know immediately if there is any change. After Comey was fired, they contact him. After Sally Yates was fired, they contact him. This guy's got a lot of answers. I sense he's not going to give any, but we'll hopefully hear from him. I know Jim Jordan's going to be on our channel later.